Hey, thanks for being a part of the conversation. Let's do some pod crashing. Episode number 222 is with Bob Crawford from the Avett Brothers. His podcast is titled Founding Son, John Quincy's America.
What's going on, Ara? How you doing?
Oh, man, we've had 3 days of rain here, man.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming this way, starting today and all weekend long.
There you go. It's because we had it in the Carolinas first.
Thanks.
Yeah, Arrow. I'm actually in outside Durham.
Are you really?
I'm with you in the rain.
Thanks for sending it up here, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm actually going to swim down to Concord this afternoon. We're playing at Merlefest tonight.
Are you right? Oh, that's so amazing, man! You guys have always stayed so local and so in touch with everybody, with the sights and the sounds and the connection with people.
Well, you know, we love as a Jersey boy. I love North Carolina has given me my success and more importantly, my wife, my kids, and so you know. You just, it's a great place to be.
So what are you doing with a podcast about John Quincy when you know that right here in Charlotte, this is all about Andrew Jackson?
Yeah, it's true. The Waxalls. I mean, you know, well, I'll tell you what's fascinating about those two. And this is, we cover this in the series, is that they're both born in 1767. Wow. Of the politicians of their time, they're the only two that had experiences in the Revolutionary War. And they had, but they had vastly different experiences, right? John Quincy Adams is the son of John Adams. Mm-hmm. He'll be the second president. He's a founding father. So during the Revolution, Adams takes his 11-year-old son, John Quincy, to Paris, to France, John Quincy's going to the opera with Thomas Jefferson in Paris. He's being educated in schools, in French schools, alongside Ben Franklin's grandchildren. And he's eating these, you know, exotic cuisines. He's learning how to speak all these languages. And then at the very same time, Andrew Jackson is in the Waxalls, and he gets a British soldier hits him over the face with the butt of a sword, and he's got this scar for life. His brother, you know, dies after being released from a British prison. His mother goes to nurse Revolutionary War sick on a ship off the coast of Charleston. She dies of smallpox. You know, the revolution leaves Jackson an orphan, and Adams is set up to be on this inside track, this inside American to become America's top diplomat. Yeah. You know, so okay. So why John Quincy Adams? Because, to put it simply, and this was my pitch to iHeart to make this, George Washington appoints him to his first diplomatic post, minister to the Netherlands. Adams goes on to serve in Congress alongside Abraham Lincoln.
Oh my God.
He is the bridge between these two important eras of our history. And when we study history, these are the eras that we study. Well, you know, the Civil War didn't happen one day. Right. It happened over the course of 30 years. And Adams was at the center of it as slavery went from being something we just didn't talk about because it was a hard conversation for Americans to have in Congress. He, as a congressman from Massachusetts, after he was a failed one-term president, he brings the issue of slavery to the center of the American Congress, to the center of the American consciousness. And I really felt that it was his time to be recognized for that.
See, I'm so proud of you for putting this together because, you know, most people, millennials up into the Generation Z and X, they don't know the presidents of the United States. And this gives people the opportunity to tap into a layer of America because you're right. This is about the building blocks. Nothing happens overnight.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, Adams was Secretary of State for 8 years under James Monroe. And we're talking about 1820, the Missouri Compromise. Wow. Adams is confessing in his journal, and he kept a journal, a diary, from 1779 till the day he died in 1848. So this is this amazing, we have this incredible resource of just not even like about him, but about what was going on at the time and what was, you know, he used it to settle scores. He told us what he really thought in his diary. But he confesses this slavery issue. I know there's only one way it will ever be solved, and it's by civil war. So he knows At that point in 1820, he knows what's going to happen, and he confesses it to his diary periodically in the next almost 3 decades to come. So it's really important for us as Americans, and it's not going to make us feel better about where we are today, but the two things that I want, all my years of studying American history, these are the two things that I think I now understand better. One is democracy is always in crisis. I don't care. You pick an era, a decade, a generation. Democracy by its nature is always under threat, and it's always in crisis. Two, history maybe doesn't repeat itself exactly. I mean, Mark Twain said history doesn't repeat, it rhymes, which I've always kind of liked. But I think it's different than that. I think it's history doesn't repeat itself. It's just that people don't change.
Right.
Human beings. We have this here. I'm talking to you. You're 2 hours down the road. I'll talk to somebody today, I'm sure, on the other side of the country at some point. And it's like we're in the same room almost. And we have this amazing technology. But the human heart, greed, lust, the striving for power, absolute power, our capacity to do incredible good, all these things, the complexity of the human heart, the human soul, however you want to put it, it hasn't changed. We're the same people that were putting on powdered wigs. I mean, we're the same people in the Bible. It's just, it hasn't pick an era of humanity. We haven't changed as people.
You know, you bring up a very interesting point about that, because there are many times that when you bring up the Bible, it's like, whoa, wait a second. I've read this story before. I've been here before. Change is everything, but people fear change because it comes with challenges. And if you're challenged, and how many people back up and say, oh, no, I'm not going that way. And you as a musician, you've gone through challenges and changes, and you've had to develop your own style.
Oh, yeah. Personal and professional, right? You know, the big personal challenges, I have a daughter who's had cancer 3 times.
Oh, man.
At 22 months old, she was told, we were told that she wasn't going to make it. And she'll be 14 November 1st.
Wow.
And it's still a struggle, and it's left her, with incredibly severely disabled, but she's amazing, and she's joyful, and she spreads joy. So that's a personal challenge that we've experienced. And then professionally, you know how hard it is for a band to survive. Yeah. And we've been around for 22 years now. And, we've kind of fallen into our own thing, and we have an amazing fan base that supports us and is incredibly loyal and dedicated to us. And it hasn't always been easy, but longevity. Look, Willie Nelson, we're going to go, so lucky to do this. We're going to go play for Willie Nelson's 90th birthday this weekend.
Wow.
And when we watch him from the side of the stage, because we've been so fortunate to tour with him, a couple shows a year for the past 7 or 8 years, you watch him, and it's the idea of the longevity, the fact that he's kept it going this long, and you only do that by rolling with the punches, right? And by being flexible, and by learning and growing and being humble. So although he sings hard to be humble, which is pretty awesome. But anyway, we like John Quincy Adams, who went through a lot of struggles, a lot of heartache, a lot of personal struggles, personal tragedy. You just keep finding a way.
Building this podcast with your writers and producers, are you in the studio with them, or are you just dropping tracks? Because the way that you bring this together, it's almost like you're there, because you're going, I didn't like the way that read went. I'm a little bit out of tune with my speaking. I'm going to go in this direction instead.
Well, like making a movie, like making an album, there is editing that goes into it. Yep. But I worked with a great team. It was, of course, iHeart and Curiosity Podcast have been so great to bring this thing to the world. I worked with a production team, School of Humans, and my story editor was James Morrison, and our producer was Jessica Metzger. And Jessica was just making sure we had the talent in, and all the deadlines were met, and flagging things in the script that maybe we need to look at and fact check. And then James, like I would write a script and then send it to James, and then James would make changes and send it to me, and then I would make changes and send it back to him. So it was this great team effort of just really trying to get the story, because we're covering a lot of time here. Mm-hmm. We're covering decades of American history, a lot of like battles on the House floor. How do we make that exciting? Well, Adams made that exciting because he was very witty, very sarcastic, very, just a great orator. So, and that's what made me think, hey, we can bring this to life. Like reading the actual debates from the House floor from the 1830s and 1840s. I was like, man, this is incredible. This ain't C-SPAN. Yeah. Like this is incredible. But how do we, condense time, and how do we bring out those specific scenes that will get people listening and get them to want to keep listening?
Well, see, and you do it in a way that's attract, reattract, because that's what you're doing with Nick and Patrick, is that you get my attention, you reattract my attention. There's constant change in there while keeping, forward motion taking place.
Can I tell you what made me think about this when we were like writing these scripts? When we write a set list for the band, mm-hmm. We think about dynamics and we say, okay, we got 2 hours with people. How are we going to make this like up and down, keep it going, build tension, give high moments? So we come out, you got 7-piece rock band. Then at some point you're going to have a guy by himself singing a song, then you're going to have a duo, you're going to have a trio, you're going to have a quartet, you're going to have a woman come out with a fiddle and play a song and play fiddle. We're going to give you hard rock. We're going to give you bluegrass. We're going to give you, and that. So when I'm writing this script, I'm thinking, okay, we got narration, we've got experts, and we have dialogue. And we just had the dialogue written in at some point, and it was a little later than I think the producers would have liked, because this is a tip of the hat to Jessica Metzger, because she had to take care of all that like SAG, stuff and becoming a sanctioned a job for people in the industry. But I thought, what if I got my friends to read these lines? At first it was like, hey, what if I just get my friends to do this? Mm-hmm. And then it was like, well, who would be a good Andrew Jackson? Well, the only name I could think of was Nick Offerman. And then I take my daughter to St. Jude for her checkup. She goes every 3 months to check for her MRI, to check for her brain tumor. And I'm friends with the CEO there, and Rick Shadiak, and he's like, I'm telling him about this project. He's like, do you know Patrick Warburton? I was like, oh, I know who he is. He's like, I'm good friends with you. He is an incredible supporter of St. Jude. Let me connect you guys. Wow. And so I got connected to Patrick and told him about Patrick would probably do anything for a St. Jude family. First of all, that's how he and his wife are. Hey, they've raised millions upon millions of dollars for the hospital. And but I told him about my daughter. I told him about the series, and he was just like completely into it. So a lot of it was luck, but it was this idea of how do we create a dynamic storyscape. So if you're listening for 30 minutes, just jump in, put it on in your car, put on your headphones, and let's go for a ride. And that was kind of the whole concept.
In all the research that you've done, were you shocked at any time? Because I was shocked to hear that Andrew Jackson was the one that stepped forward and said that things are corrupt. I thought, man, I've never heard that story, and I've been down there to the museum 1 billion times.
Yes, it was. I'll tell you, again, history doesn't repeat, but these chimes go off, right? For me, these, like when I'm reading history, a bell will go off in my head. And it's this idea of you got 1824, you got 4 legitimate candidates for the presidency, and no one gets a majority of electoral votes, so it goes into the House of Representatives, and the top 3 by the Constitution, the top 3, I believe it's the 12th Amendment, top 3 are going to be voted on by the House. So once the election goes into the House, the American people are left out.
Yep.
Right now it's no longer, you're not being elected by the citizens of the country. Now you're being elected by an elite body. And that's where Adams wins. And Jackson had won the popular vote, and he had won a majority of the plurality. But Adams wins, and he nominates Henry Clay from Kentucky, one of their 4 competitors, who didn't make it to the House vote. And what Clay hated Jackson. They had a history. They had a past. And so Clay lobbied for Adams, and then Adams nominates Clay Secretary of State. At the time, well, we had Washington, Adams, and then Jefferson served as Secretary of State. He becomes president. Madison serves as Secretary of State. He becomes president. Monroe serves as Secretary of State. He becomes president. Adams, Secretary of State, he's now going to become president. So Secretary of State at that point looked kind of like a stepping stone to the presidency. Yep. So of course, Jackson and his more so his Jackson's men, right? Jackson's new party that's forming, which is going to be the Democratic Party, say this is a corrupt bargain. This was a stolen election. This was a deep state conspiracy, and then it spreads through the press. And at the time, all the press was partisan. All of it was partisan. If you were a politician, you had your own newspaper. I mean, that's just how it was.
Dude, oh my God, I could talk to you all day. But the good news is I have the podcast, Founding Son, John Quincy's America. And you were talking about the building blocks of things, and the band has been together for 22 years. Before the big moment, you and I performed on the same stage. It was a wedding at the Quarry in Mooresville. And I was I was the DJ, and you guys played on that. I mean, I kept wondering if you guys were going to bump your head on that roof.
What a great location.
Yeah. How about it? I mean, that's a Carolina secret is what that place is.
It really is. It's like something from somewhere else, some paradise.
Wow. Well, you got to come back to this show anytime in the future. The door is always going to be open for you.
Just ask. I will be there, my friend.
I'll go through John Hancock, all right?
Oh, yes. Please do. I love John. He's
yes,
such
sir.
a good man.
Oh, my God, yes.
He's so great.
Well, you be brilliant today, okay?
I will. I'll do my best. You too.
Thank you, sir.
Take care.